Okay. A very good afternoon to one and all. Welcome to the second session of the 30th Foundation Day celebrations of the National Commission for Women. Digitalization, a word that has transformed every aspect of our lives. The digital revolution has opened new windows of opportunity for reaching the goal of gender equality. It has opened up millions of new undreamed avenues of empowerment and opportunities for women and girls. The government has been committed towards overcoming the barriers, preventing the full economic and social participation of women with its policies fostering female digital literacy, facilitating internet-based female entrepreneurship, and empowering women financially through innovative digital tools. Internet platforms represent a promising new revolution for disseminating entrepreneurial skills among women and providing them with high-quality online training and mentoring. The National Commission for Women, through its massive program on digital literacy, We Think Digital, has trained over 2 lakh women and girls in online safety and digital well-being. In line with this resolve to empower women, the Commission has organized this panel discussion on digital empowerment of women to have a crucial and meaningful deliberation on the way forward for bridging the gap in technology and to effectively use internet to prevent women's economic and digital inclusion. Today with us, we have leading experts and luminaries from the cyber world. And to introduce them, I would like to invite Major Vineet Kumar, founder and global president, Cyber Peace Foundation. Sir has studied cyber defense and information assurance at Cranfield University, UK, and is also an alumnus of Cambridge University, UK, where he studied leadership. He has served at the helm of many international positions, and he's an award-winning social entrepreneur and cybersecurity expert who has focused the majority of his career on building a more sustainable, peaceful, and secure cyberspace for women. Welcome to the panel, sir, and I hand it over to you to welcome our Minister of State for IT. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily, and again, it's an honor to be here. Welcome to the panel on digital empowerment of women. Let me first of all start by congratulating everyone present here on the 30th Foundation Day of the National Commission for Women. I'm also extremely delighted to inform that we have been joined by our Honorable Minister of State, Shri Rajiv Chandrasekhar. I'll just read out a small bio for Honorable Minister of State. Shri Rajiv Chandrasekhar has been the Minister of State for Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, and also Electronics and Information Technology. Sir is a Member of Parliament and Union Minister of State for both the ministries. He has been in public service since the last 15 years. In his early years, he has worked at Intel as Senior Design Engineer and a CPU architect on the 80486 and Pentium processors. As an entrepreneur, he is known as one of the pioneers of mobile technology in India. He is considered to be one of the leading technology minds in India. He is often referred to as the guardian MP of veterans and armed forces and continues to advocate their cause consistently in and outside the parliament. In 2009, he founded the Flags of Honor Foundation, a foundation that supports martyrs, families, and serves as a platform for citizens who seek to help families of martyrs. So welcome, sir, to the panel. And I'd like to invite you for your keynote address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you to all of you for having me on this program today. I congratulate the National Commission for Women and Rekha Sharma ji for her leadership, for what you are doing, what you do, and what you will continue to do to serve the cause of women all over India, and in specific to further the cause of empowering Indian women as we move towards the next 25 years as an independent nation and reach 100 years. I've just come out of Parliament, so I wasn't really prepared for a keynote address, but let me just share some thoughts and views with you, and we will all agree to just consider that as an address. I happen to be fortunate to be in two ministries, which are the Electronics and IT Ministry, and the Skill Development and Entrepreneurship Ministry that are in large measure driving the story, the narrative of women, women's empowerment, and women very aggressively and competitively pursuing opportunities that are being thrown up by this whole digital revolution and this new normal that is being caused by the increased digitization of our economies, of our governments, and of our lives. If you look back at the journey of from 2014, when our Prime Minister launched Digital India, he laid out three broad objectives. And I want to share those three objectives with you, and then talk about women and in the context of those three opportunities. The three things that he wanted out of technology were: one, that technology would empower citizens and transform citizens' lives, including the most remote citizen, and in a sense improve governance and improved democracy. That was one broad objective that he had in terms of the use of technology and Digital India. The other was that technology would create more opportunities, more entrepreneurship for our young Indians, and it would in turn expand our economy and expand the digital economy. And the third was about India really riding this change around the world and this disruption around the world, and technology leading that disruption and leading the transformation, and India, in a sense, leading the world with some specific strategic capabilities in the global technology space. So these are broadly three objectives. And if you take a report card of those three objectives that were launched in 2014-15, you will, even if you're the worst critic of our government, you will agree rather, that technology has been deployed to change citizens' lives in dramatic ways, including the most oft-quoted way of delivering subsidies and public services to citizens that were either having to suffer with leakages and corruption, or having to suffer from the distance away from the state capitals and government. So the Jan Dhan Yojana, the JAM Trinity, this entire architecture of delivering subsidies in an absolutely speedy manner directly to the beneficiary without any intermediation or corruption or leakage is a significant transformation of governance in India as we knew it for the last 60 years, and it has been made possible with technology. And to a large extent, that builds the credibility of governance, that builds the credibility of democracy, democratic governments, where for a large part of the last 60 years, there was this narrative that democracies are dysfunctional, governments are always patchy in terms of their performance, and technology has served in large part to serve that and to change that. Now, in that, if you see, one of the key elements, apart from the internet and technology, is the use of what we call the common service centers. This is the way to take public services to the furthest parts of our democracy and country. And CSCs, and there are 2.5 lakh CSCs in this country that are manned by village level entrepreneurs that deliver these public services through the internet to their communities. And over 80,000 of those 250,000 are women. So entrepreneurship and village level entrepreneurship and digital entrepreneurship, we have a clear example that even in these remote communities and typically not your conventional digital communities, you have women entrepreneurs playing a significant role. The second objective is the issue of the expansion of the digital economy and opportunities. And it is clear from where I'm sitting today in the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology that we are in the electronics and technology space. The workforce participation and the participation by women is at an all-time high. And estimates that we have from recent studies show that almost 45% of the participation in the technology and electronic space is women. And not just participation, some of the smartest, brightest leaders in tech, whether they are deep tech in semiconductors, we have Nivruti Rai, Jaya Jagdish of Intel and AMD, headquartered in Bangalore, and you have leadership or even of the NASSCOM, which is the Organization of Technology Service Providers, and that contributes to about $150 billion in exports. They are led by women. And I don't mean to showcase just a few examples, but to make the broader point that technology and electronics is a space clearly that women participation and women leadership is at an all-time high. Arguably that in the unicorn space, where we have 42, 50 unicorns in the current year, the women unicorns have trailed. It is something that we are aware of, and it is something that we are looking at creating a policy framework and an empowerment framework to ensure that women are also in the race in this whole expansion of the startup ecosystem. I think as we discuss, as we sit today at 75 years of celebrating 75 years of independence, we are also celebrating that, 2 years of this horrible COVID pandemic. We are one of the few nations that have come out of it with a surging economy, with a population that has voluntarily vaccinated itself, and we've got 1.6 billion vaccine shots, an unprecedented number amongst major economies in terms of the rate at which this has been voluntarily done, especially when you see what is happening in countries like Canada and US, where there continues to be stiff resistance to the mandated vaccination by their governments. That we have, as a country celebrating 75 years of independence, showcase to the world what a fine working democracy should be like and should conduct itself like during one of the most significant challenges in this century, that is of the pandemic. And that pandemic was imposed on the world, the economies and livelihoods and lives for no fault of anybody, but it was imported, as you know, from some mysterious nation somewhere, and I will not discuss that too much, because I happen to be a minister now and I can't dwell too much on those issues. But the fact that we responded as we did, and post-COVID, we are one of the world's fastest growing economies, one of the largest recipients of FDI, and we are showing women participation in the technology and electronic space increasing because of this whole blended model of work from home and virtual ability to now connect virtually in the tech space. That we are seeing increasing women participation, in my opinion, is a good way to look forward to the next 25 years, because that is what the Honorable Prime Minister has said. He said the next 10 years is India's decade, and the next 25 years we are taking decisions today to make sure that coming generations of Indians, men and women, enjoy a much better opportunity for prosperity and growth and development. So I think we are at a very interesting stage today. I think we are, as a government of India and as a people, very poised to, in a sense, shatter every glass ceiling there was over the last 6 decades or 7.5 decades of independent India that existed, whether they were imaginary glass ceilings or real glass ceilings or prejudice or paranoia or whatever you want to call it, that existed for the women of India and the girls of India. I think those are being shattered, and those are being effectively conquered by this very powerful, energized, empowered generation of women that will equally be responsible for steering India's future in the next 25 years. So I will leave it at that. I won't say very much more. And I again take this opportunity to thank the National Commission for Women for doing what they do and for serving the cause of the women of India. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. And it's really heartening to hear the progress that we have made as a nation in the digital space, and especially the contribution of women in the kind of progress that we have made. So thank you so much for your presence today. We'll now move on to the other panelists. And let me first of all start by introducing the other set of panelists to you. So we have Dr. Rajul-Ben El Desai, who's a member of the National Commission for Women. Dr. Desai assumed the office of the member National Commission for Women on March 8, 2019. She's a prominent educationist and social worker from the Gujarat state of Gujarat, and she has worked extensively for the welfare of the women and children. She was also a member of Gujarat State Commission for Protection of Child Rights from May 2017 to March 2019. She has organized several girl education awareness movement for Bandhari community in Gujarat. She has also conducted several campaigns, including Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao campaign, Good Touch and Bad Touch campaign, and women empowerment in the state of Gujarat. Welcome, Dr. Desai. Welcome, ma'am. Our second panelist is Dr. Pawan Dugal, who's a cyber expert and advocate at the Supreme Court of India. While a practicing advocate, Supreme Court of India, Dr. Pawan Dugal has made an immense impact with an international reputation as an expert and authority on cyber law, artificial intelligence, and e-commerce law. Dr. Dugal has been acknowledged as one of the top 4 cyber lawyers around the world. World Domain Day recognizes him as one of the top 10 cyber lawyers around the world. Dr. Pawan Dugal is the founder and chairman of the International Commission on Cybersecurity Law. He is also the president of cyberlaws.net and has been working in the pioneering area of cyber law, cybersecurity law, and mobile law. Welcome, Dr. Dugal, to the panel. The third panelist for today is Ms. Madhur Siroi, Head of Programs and Outreach India at Facebook. She is currently leading Facebook's program portfolio in India, including economic growth initiatives, women's economic growth initiatives, women's economic empowerment, online safety, security, privacy, social good, disaster preparedness, and driving social value through the utility of its platform. Welcome, Madhu, to the panel. Our fourth panelist is Mr. Apar Gupta, founder and executive director, Internet Freedom Foundation. Mr. Gupta is a lawyer and the executive director of the Internet Freedom Foundation, IFF, an Indian digital liberties organization that seeks to ensure that technology respects fundamental rights. He completed his postgraduate studies from Columbia University of Law and have practiced for more than a decade. He has been working extensively on public interest issues and which include strategic litigation and organization of campaigns and collectives. He was a part of key constitutional challenges on Section 66A, the right to privacy, and Aadhaar representing public interest litigants. Welcome, Apar, to the panel. Our fifth panelist is Mr. Gurucharan Singh, who is a cyber faculty at Central Detective Training School, MHA. He has around 25 years of experience as a faculty with CDTI, Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India. He provides technological information consultant to various investigative agencies of state and the center in their hour of need, and also has led cracking, solving a number of blind and dead cases with the help of technological expertise in the past. He has also conducted training for the State Police Academy, universities, teaching police officers, judicial officers, academics, and public prosecutors. Welcome, Mr. Singh, to the panel. Our final panelist for the day is Mr. Rajneesh Jaiswal, who is the head of legal and compliance for Koo app. Rajneesh heads the legal and policy teams at Koo. He has been a lawyer for over 2 decades and worked in MNCs and startups in India and abroad. Rajneesh heads the content moderation and compliance efforts at Koo application. He is an alumnus of National Law School of India, University, Bangalore. Welcome, Rajneesh, to the panel. So this is an eminent set of panelists, a very power-packed panel. I'll not take much of the time. I'll prefer to hear to the panelists and kind of understand their views and probably then share my views at the end. Quickly, just want to share some statistics before we begin the panel. And there are 2 sets of statistics, one that I'm reading right in front of me on the screen. One is from statistics, which mentions that around 50% of the Indian population is now connected, and 50% is yet to come. And by the year 2030, we are going to have 1.5 billion connected users, and that's massive. I believe we are going to surpass China. As on date, we are number 2, but I'm sure we'll be number 1 in times to come. Going to the IMI, Internet and Mobile Association of India statistics, by 2025, we are going to reach around 90 crores of connected users, around 900 million. Highest adoption, that is very interesting to me, the highest adoption is going to be from the rural areas. And as on date, if I see the divide urban versus rural, urban, in fact, there is 57% male population that is connected from the urban crowd, and 43% from the female representation in the connected world from the urban cities. When I go to the rural areas, again, referring to the report, it is 58% and 42%, 58% male, 42% female. So that's the kind of ratios, and it is going up, and the connectivity is going to go a long way. Thanks to COVID-19, one positive side of COVID-19 that I see is COVID-19 has brought us more connected. In fact, we have been exposed to the world of internet work from home. Online schooling has become the new norm, and that's how things are moving on. Despite all the scare, I see one positive side that is happening because of COVID. With this, in fact, I'd like to kind of give a small brief about digital empowerment. I'm just reading through my cheat sheet that I have from Wikipedia. What is digital empowerment? Basically, it refers to the ability of women to use digital technologies effectively in order to develop the life skills and strengthen the capacity within the information society. Digital technologies have a strong potential to empower girls, young girls and women economically and socially. In the present time, we are more connected. It brings together ideas, minds across borders and cultures. It today acts as an amplifier to the voices of young girls and women. Digital technology it's a very powerful tool for the voices to become louder and reach even more farther. Next, there are certain issues. I'm also referring to the 2018 OECD report, wherein it mentions that there's still issue when it comes to the gender divide in the digital world. The 2018 OECD report showed that fewer women than men have a smartphone and can access the mobile internet. And there are issues when it comes to women are constrained by lack of digital resources, lack of financial resources, and fear of online safety, which we just heard the Honorable Minister through the Digital India and through many initiatives that Government of India has launched today. We are kind of addressing the issues and moving much faster in the digital space. With this now, in fact, I'd like to kind of invite our very first panelist, Dr. Raju Ben Desai. Ma'am, I have a couple of questions from you, and I'll start off with my question number one. India's digital landscape is now witnessing a change with the focus being shifted to rural India. The government has been a vocal supporter of helping and promoting women who run small-scale business such as handicrafts, allied agriculture activities, and many other startups that women have today by providing them access to technological resources and mentorship. Could you shed some more light on such programs and how such initiatives contribute to the larger objective of nation development? Do you think, ma'am, that technology is an enabler? Over to you, ma'am.
Okay. Thanks, Vinit. Good afternoon, one and all. Honorable Prime Minister of India, who will address us on the occasion of 38th Foundation Day of National Commission for Women. Honorable Chairperson of NCW, Rekha Sharma Ma'am, my member, NCW Shamla Kundarji, Chairpersons of State Commission for Women and members, or esteemed co-panelists, dear participants. First of all, I would like to congratulate to all on the occasion of 38th Foundation Day of NCW. Today is very special day. Honorable Prime Minister, who realized beyond boundaries about all the needs and problems and support of our women, which were really a misery, and worked in fact of provide her due right and respect. Do you remember life before your cell phone or internet connection? Can you recall railing on payphone instead of smartphones, on encyclopedias instead of Google? There's no doubt about it. Digital technologies have dramatically transformed countless aspects of our daily lives. They have enhanced our knowledge. They have enhanced our horizons. They offer us unprecedented opportunities for connection to people, information, services, and resources. I am of the firm belief that digital technologies can also accelerate girls' and women's empowerment and thereby promote an entire country's social and economic development. Mobile phones, tablets, laptops, access to internet every day. These tools are broadening girls' and women's access to education, healthcare, training, employment, entrepreneurship, etc. Unfortunately, today, access to digital technologies remains largely out of reach for women in certain remote and far-flung areas in India. I am convinced of women's crucial role in development efforts and the urgent need to improve their position within society. Our challenge lies in turning digital technologies into a motor to promote a more inclusive economy for women instead of letting them widen the gender gap. It is a dream of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji to take India forward on the digital path at a rapid pace so that the life of every citizen become easier. All of us are working day and night in realizing this dream. If there is a passion for innovation, no one hand, there is also a passion to adopt those innovations rapidly on the other. Therefore, Digital India is the resolve of India. Digital India is the instrument for Atmanirbhar Bharat, vocal for local, and is also a manifestation of a strong Indian women emerging in the 21st century. The Prime Minister also said Digital India means opportunity for all, facility for all, and participation for all. Digital India means everyone's access to the government system. Also, a transparent, non-discriminatory system and an attack on corruption. Digital India means saving time, labor, and money. Digital India means fast profit, full profit, and also a minimum government, maximum governance. So, the increasing presence of women on the internet has translated into greater access to educational opportunities for women, from learning how to better manage their health and hygiene issues to using their mobile phones to voice their opinions. Technology has turned digital platforms and EdTech, such as government schemes like Swayam and e-archive programs, into empowerment tools facilitating self-directed learning. The government digital literacy program, PMG Disha, has ensured that 99.2 lakhs individuals are better equipped to capitalize on the dividend of the internet and by emphasizing women's digital literacy. The scheme is crafting a more viable environment for women participation. Also, the Pradhan Mantri Kaushalya Vikas Yojana aims to skill India on a large scale with high speed and standards and has successfully trained 33.5 lakh people in skills of their choice, of whom 50% are women. Technology is allowing women to develop new skills, forge new networks, and leverage them for greater opportunities. So, the government digital identity and zero balance accounts program saw an immense uptake from women, with over 53% of Jan Dhan account being opened by women. The scheme further encouraged women to collaborate and from self-help groups in their areas, leading to the possibility of accessing financial service and lending. I would definitely like to mention that nowadays more Indian women than ever making their way online, becoming equal beneficiaries of the digital revolution and using empower to get empowered. Digital connectivity has radically and positively altered women's lives in provide unprecedented and seamless access to 5 years education, engagement, entitlement, employment, and entrepreneurship. Women are playing a key role in the transformation from becoming a job seekers to job entrepreneurs, creators. 74% of the Mudra borrowers in 2017 were women entrepreneurs, and more than 53% of the startup incubated under Startup India have been founded by women. Initiatives such as Mahila E-Heart ensure that there is a tailored marketplace for women to retail their products by removing entry barriers and facilitating transactions. So, the Prime Minister said that the Digital India campaign has helped the country during the Corona period. Also, in this regard, I would like to mention that National Commission for Women, in collaboration with Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, envisioned and conducted a 6-week online training program to support and sponsor digital learning and aspiring women entrepreneurs at ideation age. The cost of training was borne by NCW. This program was conducted during lockdown and Corona period. I would definitely like to mention that with exposure to cyberspace, there is an inescapable threat to cybersecurity attached. It is our aim at NCW to strengthen the cybersecurity ecosystem for all women in India. We at National Commission for Women are committed towards creating a safe cyberspace for women and empowering women on digital landscape. The Commission has been working towards promoting the cause of digital literacy through its program We Think Digital, a global digital literacy program in collaboration with Facebook and Cyber Peace Foundation. The digital literacy and online safety program covers 3 topics. First, data privacy and social media safety. Second, cyber law, cyber crime and redressal. And third, cyber ethics and digital well-being. The program has sensitized over 60,000 participants in its first phase, 105,000 participants in its second phase, and aim to sensitize 150,000 women and girls in the third phase. In its program has also launched an online resources center to offer help for women in distress on issues pertaining on online safety such as the cyberbullying, cyber stalking, financial frauds, etc. The program has till date trained over 2 lakh women and girls are effectively using online resources and grievances redressal mechanism across the country. Here, I would like to share one example. The name is Pentabadi. She is from Kutch, Gujarat. And she formed a company to produce a line of shopping bags called the Pabi bag, used in Bollywood and Hollywood movies. In 2015, pabiben.com website was launched. She involved the women of Rabari community as well as other women from her village. Now she invented a new embroidery art called Harijari. Pabi bags are now exported to US, UK, Australia. So Pabiben Rabari was the recipient, ideal lady of a national award of outstanding performance in rural business, vocal for local, in 2018, and the award was given by her by our Prime Minister Narendra Modi. At last, I would say that digital space is a universe of exploding stars, and so many women should be facilitated and strengthened to shine bright in this universe. और लास्ट में मैं आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के शब्द में कहना चाहूंगी कि जो उन्होंने 2 years अगो और पार्लियामेंट में 8 मार्च इंटरनेशनल वुमेन डे पे अपना विचार जो सुझाव उनको दिया था, वो है मेरे देश की महिलाएं न जाने कितनी क्षमता है मेरे देश की महिलाओं में। एक हाथ से वो घर संभाल रही है तो दूसरी ओर बच्चे संभाल रही है, उंगलियां उसके लैपटॉप में है, अपना मोबाइल फोन ऑपरेट कर रही है, किसी भी क्षेत्र में अपनी श्रेष्ठता को वो प्रदान कर रही है। सो निश्चित तौर पर अगर मेरी राष्ट्र की महिला शक्ति वो ज्यादा पावरफुल बनेगी, डिजिटल एम्पावरमेंट जो मैं आने वाले 10 सालों में चाहता हूँ, उसमें देश की आधी आबादी अगर जुड़ जाएगी तो हमारा राष्ट्र वो विश्व की टोच पर निश्चित तौर पर आएगा। सो मैं फिर से धन्यवाद कहती हूँ। थैंक यू, थैंक्स ऑल ऑफ यू।
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for sharing your views. And again, I totally agree with you that technology is playing a very key role in broadening access to the women and also empowering them. और साथ ही साथ दूसरी बात जो मैं रखना चाहूँगा, again taking again a note from your address, is women, they are playing a very key role, and from today the thing has changed. From being a job seeker, they have come to an era where they are the job givers now. And there are many more women-related startups, women-led startups that we see, and kind of supporting in the economy as well. And digital is going to play a very key role everywhere. Whatever we do, digital is going to stay, and digital is going to come in a very big way. So thank you so much for sharing your views. Now I'd like to move on to the next panelist, or next panelist में move करने से पहले, one thing that I like to share here is with these tech and modernization that is happening, it's all good. Lot of things are coming in, a lot of new ideas, innovations, and all that. Now it's a ground that has been given not just to women, but I feel it's the ground goes to everyone, even the I would say men and also young children. They are kind of utilizing this kind of ground that has been given to them to kind of share their skill sets and to come up with innovation, new ideas, and then that's how they further grow. But with great powers come great responsibilities, and at times there are issues as well to this. So there are some certain roadblocks, there are certain issues. So I'd like to now speak to Mr. Gurucharan Singh, who comes from the LEA fraternity. And I have some specific asks, since I had the opportunity to kind of head India's first cyber defense research agency back then in 2012. So I understand certain challenges that are there on the ground. And today I just wanted to understand, like my first question to you is, do you think that reporting has increased in the recent times? Because one thing that we see, and that too running these campaigns, again, Digital Shakti, also while running Digital Shakti, we think digital, we saw that a lot of cases that are unreported. People don't go to the police station to report. A lot of social stigma and other things attached. So what do you think? Do you think that the reporting has increased in the recent times? If yes, then I'd request if you can share the kind of cases that you are getting, the kind of cases related to women, women getting trolled, harassed on different platforms. If you could share some of them so that we can understand the problem that exists today. And then as a panelist, again, the panelist again today comprises of people from basically all walks of life. We have industry representation, academia, civil society, government, all together. So maybe coming up with some solutions where we can also suggest what needs to be done. So what do you, Mr. Gurucharan, say?
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, all the panelists of this August. First of all, I would like to congratulate the National Commission for Women on their Foundation Day celebration. So the very good question you have asked. The first question is the reporting remains, whatever I feel, reporting remains very poor. Over the period, it has increased though. If you take the statistics of 2021, is a 13 there is a 13% increase in the reporting. But again, I'm speaking that when we see the number of cases, that has also increased manifold. There's a 400, as many as four times increased of the cases, especially against the women and children. There's a surge of cases against the women and children. Or when we speak about the nature of cases, cybercrime cases, or a use of the cyber space against the women, the type of cases which we are getting right now are the online frauds against the financial crimes. Our credit cards and the debit cards and the financial information remains in the hands of the grahani, our wives. So sometimes we are more aware, but our wives are not very much aware. and they fall in the prey of the cyber criminals and offenders. And they are the most vulnerable, when we speak about the financial crimes. The second type of crimes, again, I'm saying is a very generic type, is a stalking, bullying. A lot of cases are coming of a stalking and a bullying these days. Recent one is the, everybody might have heard, remains in the limelight, is Sully deals and the bully by related case, again, I'm telling, GitHub is having a total, code of the application. Though these applications were not there on the Play Store, neither the Android, Google, or the iPhone, but still those applications are available on the GitHub. So it's again a great challenge to how to identify, is there any malicious applications or such type of coding is there on the GitHub. Though are we taking any preventive steps to stop such type of applications to be generated or to be getting viral, and again I'm telling, a lot of things has happened. There were a lot of information which has traveled against sometime say the celebrity of the nation. Cases have been reported. Sextortion has increased again during last 2 years. Sextortion, sir, I have got a few cases in Punjab, Haryana, Delhi, and in Uttar Pradesh. Girls, their privacy is gone. Their private pictures are uploaded on the pornographic websites, and they are being asked for money and the physical contacts too. So where to report? Do you feel that our reporting mechanism has developed to that extent? Still feel that though the government of India has developed a very good portal for a cybercrime reporting, cybercrime.gov.in, but still, as far as the females are concerned, they resist in going uploading their information on such portals. So sometimes I feel, though the cases are directed to the concerned states or the concerned police stations, they simply make a call to the girls and the female, then ask them to come to the police station and file a statement. What is the fun of having such type of online portals if still the physical presence is required? Social stigma, मेरे पास तो जितने भी cases आते हैं मैंने तो यही देखा है, girls are not open, they are not very open to go to the police station and file a complaint. They simply ask. Today itself in the morning I got one case of Instagram, though there is a representative from the Facebook itself. Girl ने क्या बोला, सर मेरी अभी engagement हुई अभी पीछे, or sir my marriage is due. Somebody has created my fake profile on the Instagram. To whom to report, sir? मेरे को आज ही मेरी प्रोफाइल बंद करवानी, otherwise the next day there will be a break of my मेरी शादी टूट जाएगी. तो अब देखो उसको immediate action चाहिए. To whom she should go? Do you feel that the redressal officers which the government of India, which most of the intermediaries have raised after that ethics code, which has come up in February 2021, but still the grievance officers which are there, sometimes they are not responding, or even they are not removing the contents which are required to be removed very in an early fashion. So again I'm telling that is being taking place. The matrimonial sites, great nonsense. Data breach is taking place, and we are putting up our data profiles of the girls on the matrimonial site. The very next day the girls are getting proposals from the fraudsters, proposals from the offenders, or they are stealing their information and misusing their information itself. Okay, so one more challenge is there, the anonymity. I've seen a few cases of extortion against a female coming out of the virtual numbers, and it's taking a lot of time in tracing such type of virtual numbers sometime. Okay, since as far as the awareness and the education and the training to law enforcement agencies is concerned, is lacking to the great extent. A lot of things are still to be done, though I'm also working with the government of India, and I'm collaborating hands with most of the law enforcement agencies and the security agencies in dealing with such type of anonymous channels like virtual numbers and these dark webs, where a lot of information, especially for the women, is traveling. So again, it's a gray area which is required to be addressed upon. And I would like to have the opinion of Dr. Pawan Dugal, incidentally happens to be the panelist of this August forum. Uh, are we laws are so equipped to deal with the cyber crime or cyber security related issues? Is the quantum of punishment is corroborative to the quantum of damage which these criminals are causing in the society? Or as far as the law enforcement agencies are concerned, are we so quick? And we need to be, proactive. Why we are waiting for the crime to happen? I used to always say, sir, prevention is always better than cure. And if the crime has happened, it is very difficult or more the damage which he has caused to the society or to the woman, irreversible. Sir, I have seen the suicidal attempts, irreversible. So, sir, I work with 100% success. You bring any case, sir. It can be done. Education is required. Okay. We are posing that we are educating the society, particularly the women. Still, I feel lot of things are required to be done. We need to go to the masses. We need to tell them how to make use of the technology. And we are in the era of digital empowerment of the women in particular. So at the same time, the need of the hour is to educate the woman first. How to make ourselves digitally empowered to make use of the devices. That is required.
Right.
So,
Right.
Mr. Vineet, thank you,
So
sir.
thank you so much. Thank you for sharing the concerns. And I also strongly believe that prevention is always better than cure. So we should focus a lot on prevention. And that's why the National Commission for Women, again, in collaboration with Cyber Peace Foundation and Facebook, we have initiated the campaign Digital Shakti. We think digital started in 2018, again, because we could see the issues like this coming up, like we mentioned about the Suli by app, the issue that has happened. So we could kind of see that, and that's keeping all of this in mind. In 2018, we had launched a campaign, and we're seeing a great success in terms of connecting with people, sharing do's and don'ts, advisories, and everything. So I completely agree. And my two other questions that I have that is associated in terms of again the kind of crimes that are being reported. You mentioned about major issues like sextortion, revenge porn, matrimonial sites. Yes, these are something that is happening now. But what about the law enforcement capability? Are the police and the law enforcement agencies skilled to address the growing challenges of cyberspace? Because now we are surrounded by emerging tech all over. I mean, today there's something, tomorrow there would be something else. But are we ready to kind of handle those cases? And number two, again, the second part of my question is, does MLAT and LR work? Because frankly speaking, when I had gone on the ground, my team, when we had conducted certain trainings for the law enforcement agencies, what we found out that when an MLAT request goes, on an average, it takes 5 months for the law enforcement agency to get the data from a foreign territory. So that remains a big problem. In 5 months' time, when I get the data, it's of no use to me. And how can I provide relief to the victim on the ground as a law enforcement? And as a civil society, also we also struggle. So what are your views on this? Are we ready to kind of handle the emerging crimes that are happening? And plus, are we skilled enough? That is more important. Over to you.
Sir, very good question you have asked, sir. As far as the skill of the law enforcement agency is concerned, sir, we are in the transitional stage. Okay. So we are educating the law enforcement agencies agent to deal with such type of crimes which are increasing day by day. So the lot of things are still to be done in this field, that we need to, have a dedicated cyber cells or cyber crime investigation cells in a collaboration with the police public relationship. The PPP model is required. Police as a whole cannot deal with the increasing number of cases, of a cyberspace and a cyber crime. Second, topic which you have raised is the seeking information under letter of rogatory and the mutual legal assistance treaty. Frankly speaking, you have rightly pointed out that it takes sometimes a month, 6 months together in getting our amulet and the letter of rogatory materialize and seeking the information from the intermediaries which are situated abroad. And in some of the cases, even when we send a request to the Facebook or the WhatsApp, they also come up to file a case come through AMLET or the letter of rogatory. So it's a great challenge for we people. But as far as me concerned, sir, I would like to tell you frankly, sir. So there is the letter of rogatory and the AMLET is required, but still, sir, your skill can still make you competent enough to seek the information from the intermediaries situated abroad. There are informal and formal channels, both exist. So if the formal channel is not materializing, we go for the informal challenge. And that when we are seeking the information through the informal channel, the lot of things can be done. And then, sir, last week I have got one case from Haryana. Though the intermediary situated abroad insisted for the letter of rogatory, but still I got it materialized through the informal channel. So informal channel may be the Interpol, informal channel may be the service provider, or the type of request which you are sending. Informal challenge may be through the embassy of the country situated in that area. So that can be done. So I think the need of the hour is to make our law or make our system so much of empowered that the speedy, type of things get happen. Like a letter of rogatory on the AMLET. I think it should not more than 10 to 15 days should take in raising this mutual legal assistance treaty. So time taken as of now, again I'm telling sir, huge time they are taking and
Right.
letting the things materialize.
Sure. Thank you so much for sharing your views. I'd now like to move on to Ms. Madhu, because I would like to hear the platform perspective also. Number one, Madhu, how do you think that the platforms, and especially Meta and the entire family, Facebook, Instagram, how are the platforms empowering women in the cyberspace? That's my question number one. And secondly, how women are the most targeted groups online. And we have seen that different stakeholders have played their part in imparting and training people on online safety. We are also collaborating in one such initiative. How do you think there is a need for a long-term strategic cyber empowerment program to create safe online space for women? How can education lay emphasis on safe surfing practices and contribute towards integrated community development? So over to you, Madhu, for your thoughts. Madhu, you are on mute. I believe we can't hear your voice.
Very good afternoon to all the other panelists and to all the people watching this webinar. So happy to be here and thank you so much for inviting me. So I'll break up this question a little chronologically, Vineet, and talk about the fact that how can education play a role in sort of mitigating some of the harms online or on empowering people and especially women to be able to actualize all their potential online. So firstly, we have seen, especially during COVID-19, that there's been an increased number of young people, even women, and people per se who've come online. They've come online to work, they've come online to educate themselves, they've come online to socialize, which of course also creates, open a much wider world to them. One of the ways we think that education can play a very key role is that education can, at very early stages, start making children, both young girls and young boys, very well aware of the fact that this is there are two kinds of worlds they live in. One is the world that is the physical world where they are interacting with each other physically, and the other is via the internet where they're global citizens. So after a lot of deliberation internally, we did feel that just like when we were children and we were taught social sciences and we were taught social etiquette, and if you remember our books as early as class 2, 3 talk to us about be kind to your neighbors, celebrate festivals together, or, behave a certain way, give people respect. I think that there is a very important need at the very formative years to start talking about these very concepts and making people aware. I am fairly certain that when at early, educational times, if pedagogically these issues are targeted, there will be some significant impact on how children grow to learn about their responsibilities, how women and men both can collectively from an early age understand that they have a certain responsibility when they're online. It is just not about the opportunity and the access, it's also about the responsibility. It is in this regard that we've initiated a big project with a Central Board of Secondary Education. While it will seek to teach children about immersive technologies, it's also hoping to give a lot of material and a lot of grounding on digital citizenship and the basic ability to be able to be online and be respectful to each other. Second thing is education in a wider perspective. We find that while our women folk are all rearing up to come forth, to be a part of the India's economy, to be a part of the Indian ecosystem, there are certain vulnerabilities they face because of social context, because of in areas lack of education, a lack of understanding, and this is where they become a slightly more vulnerable group. As you know, we have been working extensively with the Cyber Peace Foundation in partnership and under the guidance of the National Commission of Women to do digital literacy across huge cohorts. I know that the total number we've done has crossed 2 lakh plus, and I do know the esteemed panelists from NCW just spoke about that. But the idea is that digital literacy can't just be of one kind. So we've been very mindful to make it appropriate to the level at which the woman is. अगर आप बिल्कुल गांव से हैं या आपके पढ़ने लिखने की क्षमता सीमित है तो आप अलग तरीके से समझ सकते हो, शायद वीडियो शायद ऑडियो के द्वारा आपको ज़्यादा बताया जा सकता है कि कैसे आप ऑनलाइन आएँ, कैसे आप अपने आप को सुरक्षित रख सकते हैं, कैसे आप ये देख सकते हैं कि आप जब सारी अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ को लेवरेज करें तो आप ये भी ध्यान रखें that you are not vulnerable or exposed in any way. So in digital literacy, we do aim to do exactly this. At the next level, when a woman is digitally aware of how to be safe online, how to report, very rightly so, the conversation that was just happening about reporting. Reporting itself has so many myths surrounding it. There are conversations which I heard another esteemed panelist say about, will I remain anonymous? Will it even be considered? I hope I won't be exposed and be, further made vulnerable. So I think that these are all real questions, and it is only organizations like Meta, and we are in the coming part of the year by Q2 hoping to do a wide campaign on reporting to tell women extensively in multiple languages that a lot of these are just myths. You will remain anonymous, your complaint will be addressed, and there will be no way that you will be subject to a wider scrutiny if you are reporting. So I think there is a need for women to also get educated beyond digital literacy on how to use different platforms, how to be effective on the internet, what are their reporting mechanisms, how can they make their profile safe, who to interact with, who not. Another interesting conversation I heard in this regard was about falling prey to scams. It's a very interesting thing, sir, that you bring up right now, because as we speak on Meta India, we are running a campaign on protecting yourself against dating scams, against phishing scams, against OTP scams, because this is very much a reality today. And I think here, Vineet, education of all kinds plays a very, very important role. And I think platforms like Meta, with their reach, can definitely be front foot forward partners. And just like we are doing in anti-scamming reporting, come forth and support the digital literacy of women. I do know that the NCW program has now graduated beyond the 217,000 numbers to start looking effectively at the new 50,000 women that have been educated just this year itself. And we have large targets. We are not stopping shy of reaching as many women as the platform allows. And this mandate has been expanded by setting up under the guidance of NCW and with Cyber Peace's support, the resource center, where awareness videos, posters, help that they may need, all kinds of information is being widely made available to women folk. If I had to turn a little inwards, and the program is We Think Digital, and it has taken very, very big strides since 2019 to look at women digital literacy. But if I look at Meta as a platform, I mean, I would say that as very responsible and very mindful and having a very strong commitment to women and child safety, there are 3 buckets in which we very strongly look at safety. One, having clear policies to safeguard our users. while still allowing them to express themselves freely. The policies have to allow for that expression, for that creativity. Secondly, by improving our very own products and our platforms by adding new features to protect our users, using cutting-edge technology and artificial intelligence to ensure that most of the material that is harmful doesn't even find its place online. And lastly, collaborating with experts globally and talking to panels, esteemed panels like the one here, to try and understand what are the important areas and to ensure that our work in these areas is completely up to date. Meta has invested more than $13 billion since $13 billion since 2016 in ensuring our users' safety. There's a team of more than 40,000 people that works relentlessly around the clock to ensure that our users are safe. In fact, just in 2021, we are on track to spend $5 billion on safety and security. So rest assured, the intent and the value of all interactions on our platform is hugely enhanced if people are feeling safe and they're feeling comfortable. Because reporting came up, I'd like to talk to everyone about the fact that we have recently lost something called NCII.org. I think this also addresses the question that came up about women's pictures that may have content that is, a non-consensual intimate imagery, or that has been put up either without their consent or has inadvertently been self-generated, and the kind of harms it can possibly manifest into. So our platform, NCII.org, that we launched only in December, that is a month and a half ago, is a proactive platform, and we've set it up in collaboration and after the expert guidance of a number of CSO partners. It does a couple of things. One, it has the ability to proactively prevent non-consensual intimate imagery from coming on platforms. It gives the control to the user themselves to hash their image and feed that hash up on the platform, which will prevent it from coming on any of the platforms if it's not already there. If it's already there, it can be banked and be pulled down. So NCII.org from our side is a very, very, very important initiative to give people more control, to give women more control over their images and be able to keep a track that if in case there has been some self-generated image, there is a potential possibility of ensuring that it never comes online. We have also been working with product teams extensively on two sides. One, making sure women can economically empower themselves and use our platforms to actualize their business potential, their creativity potential, but on the other side, constantly tweaking product to ensure that they're safe. So whether you talk about our locked profile feature or the ability to select your audience, who can, who cannot comment with you, who can interact, who cannot interact with you, allowing people to have the choice to keep their accounts private, keep their interactions limited to a small group. So there have been enough and more product interventions as well to demonstrate our commitment to user safety. However, very rightly, as it's been said, this is an extremely large number of people who are finding their agency online. And wherever there are a lot of people, just like in the physical world, there are a host of challenges and problems that will come forth. They manifest in different ways, some just being irritants, to others bordering on bullying and harassment, and yes, perhaps some of them being escalated to the level of a crime. But I think this is a very nice initiative, and under National Commission of Women's guidance, we've always been encouraged to talk more, interact within our ecosystems like the esteemed panel here, learn more, and go back to our own to our own platforms, to our own initiatives, to our own products, to ensure that we can take those learnings back. Because I think eventually we're all mutually tied in the single mission to try and make users very, very safe online, and women themselves with the tremendous economic potential they bring, and now access to market being manifold and possible through being online. A woman sitting in a village somewhere today has the potential to sell her product to an audience, say, even in a Delhi market like Khan market, something that she could not have imagined in the past, because today it's possible without a shop, without capital investment. And this go-to market, this potential that has been unleashed for this 50% of our population that is so reared up to take this digital opportunity and go to the next level. I think from on Meta's behalf, I'd like to come forth and say that we are absolutely committed to trying to ensure that they are safe and they can, actualize these opportunities and add to the economic growth and to the economic recovery and resilience of India. So, that's my limited view to what you were asking about. But of course, my experience is much less than all the other panelists, and I would love to hear from them different perspectives, which I can take back and we can add to our, effort at trying to keep our users even safer online.
Thanks, Madhu. Thanks. And it was really a pleasure to hear about Meta's commitment on the empowerment of women and also focusing on the trust and safety of the women in the cyberspace. Plus, the NCI.org is a very great initiative, let me say. And I feel that all the platforms, it's not just Meta, but probably different platforms which are operating and where women users are active should have something like this on that platform as well. And I must also echo one more thing that you mentioned, that education of all kinds, because I also strongly believe that we need to reach out to everyone and we need to start early so that maybe in the early formative stages, if we are able to kind of impart the education about do's and don'ts, what needs to be, and like something like a cyber morals to start with, so that people understand what to do, what not to do. And then after they go, they are the future leaders. And by the time they grow up, they understand everything about tech, what is wrong and what is correct. So that is something which I believe and strongly believe that this is required and needs to be done. So from one platform, I'd like to now move on to the other platform. I have Mr. Rajneesh Jaiswal with me from KU. So Rajneesh, again, welcome. And now we'd like to hear your views on basically how is KU empowering women in the cyberspace? And then I have one more question, but I'd like to address the first one.
Firstly, it's indeed a privilege for KU to be present in this August gathering. We are India's homegrown microblogging platform in regional languages. So it's indeed a privilege. We thank the National Commission for Women for inviting us and also congratulate them for 30 years. They're doing an awesome job. And KU, small as it is, young as it is doing our bit for empowering women and other measures. I think our USP as a company is not entertainment, is not e-commerce. We are a thoughts and opinions platform, and that's how we work. Our mission is to engage Indians in different parts of India to be able to express their thoughts and opinions in their own language. And that, in my humble opinion, is our contribution to empowerment. There are several examples on our platform, several examples on our platform, and our journey has started. I think in the last 1.5 years, we've seen communities of women gathering on the KU platform, speaking to each other in their native languages. And some of our research shows that the strongest communities are housewives, and that came as a surprise to us. These are housewives interacting with other housewives, speaking to each other in the Odia language, in the Kannada language, and are able to express themselves. They found a voice on the internet. They've been able to interact with other folks. We have something known as eminence. Eminence is our homage to Indians who've done something exceptional in Indian public life. There are about 4,000 odd eminent people on our platform, and I'm very, very glad to say that almost 50% of those eminent people are women. And what we are able to do is take the voices of these eminent women in different sectors, from Olympic medalists to honorable ministers to industrialists, to these women in different parts of India in their own languages. The multilingual KU feature that we have, which translates KUs. I can write something in English and if I want to, people in the Kannada community will be able to read it, interact with it in their own languages. So we've been fortunate as part of our mission to be able to connect eminent women to women in several parts of India who are then able to listen to those thoughts and opinions and form a thought and opinion about the world themselves and then express themselves as well. And that's several examples. There are acid attack victims in Karnataka who write awesome poetry. We have RJ Urmi, who is a celebrated RJ who's doing a lot of comedy work, and she finds a lot of traction on our platform. So the way Ku is empowering is allowing actually allowing is the wrong word, is enabling women across India to be able to access the internet and to be able to connect with other women in their own languages. Poetry amongst housewives is one of our hidden gems on our platform. A lot of women today are also writing literature, and that's available on our platform and in their own languages. And these are these niche micro communities. So this sort of is our humble attempt to empower women and give them a voice where it matters.
Thank you, Rajneesh. And yes, I mean, the multilingual feature is something that will take you to places, not just in the urban areas, but also the rural locations, because that support is what I believe majority of the women entrepreneurs are looking for, to get themselves on the platform, to get their businesses on the platform. So that's really great to know. My second question to you is, can you share the highlights of the important safety mechanisms that you have as a platform and something that you have already implemented? Could you throw some light on that as well?
I think Ku is the youngest on the scene and has had the advantage of learning from others, looking at the best practices of other platforms and Indianizing them and bringing them to India. To Guru Charanji's point, the biggest thing we've been able to do, everyone at Ku is in India. Our teams are in India. Our content moderators are Indians like us, multilingual content moderators sitting in cities across India, reading the same newspapers, reading the same content, having the same mindset about what kind of content is Indian. And our content moderation efforts are very quick. It doesn't take 5 months for us to take content down or to respond to a request from a law enforcement authority. I think we've been able to do that fairly well. The definition of sexual harassment that we've, or sexually explicit content and other contents which is harmful for women are literally what we've taken from POSH and other laws in India. So the biggest advantage that we bring on the table is our ability to be present in India and respond to requests from users as well as law enforcement in a very, very, very quick time. We've also been able to do this in multiple languages. All our community guidelines, all our policies, and very soon all interactions from a notification perspective are also multilingual. We are present in 10 Indian languages. It's easy to interact with us. It is interactive to respond to our content moderators. And the 10 languages really make a difference. So I think, these are the top two. Apart from that, we've been working with to identify abusive language on the internet. We've recently signed up with the Central Institute of Indian Languages, Mysore, and we've been able to identify a bunch of Indian words which are abusive, especially to female users. And for the last, I think, 2 months, we've been proactively taking down content which contains those words, and that has really helped clean up a lot of the bad content which is going out. And then when I say this, these are abusive words in 22 languages, out of which 10 are already operational, and especially words which are denigratory to women. And they're taken down on our platform. The algorithm runs thrice a day. We are going to increase the running of the algorithm to more as the content on our platform grows. Our policies are available in multiple languages as well. Apart from that, we have been implementing automated tools which are identifying, especially in light of the various cases in India, content which is sexually explicit for children and women, and that is automatically also being taken out. I think it started about a month ago. We've already been taking down content from an AI/ML perspective, which is not palatable and which is not right. So these are some of the things we've been doing. As I said, we have the luxury of looking at other folks who are working in this space and implementing more commonsensical methods which are faster, quicker, which are more to the ground. We will also be very soon launching a bunch of programs where we will be educating male users on how to write better content. Of course, outreach to female users is the need of the hour, but we think that at KU, you also need to reach out to male users and educate is a strong word, but at least sensitize on what is good content. What should you write? What should you post? And it becomes a very important task, as somebody said earlier. There are about 200, 300, 400, I don't know how many Indians still who are going to come onto the internet. As you rightly said, there is a lot of people coming onto the internet from small towns, reaching out to those folks, educating them that, hey, this is your first time on the internet. Use the right language. This is how you speak. This is how you interact. And as other panelists said that as well, it's important probably to have a moral science lesson on interacting on the internet. Our programs go live, I believe, sometime mid-Feb to end Feb, and you will see an outreach from that side as well. So these are some of the things, something we are doing internally, and a few things we are going to do externally as well.
Thanks, Rajneesh. Great to hear the kind of initiative that you have undertaken. Being a young platform, doing so much, I'm sure KU has a long way to go. So great. So moving on from you to now Apar. Apar, again, thanks for being here. And IFF has done some credible work in the techno policy space. A lot of recommendation. I keep reading recommendations from IFF. I have again two questions as I've been asking the other panelists. So the question here is, there are laws to focus on physical violence, but psychological violence on women online is often overlooked. Do you think that the existing legal framework needs an overhaul so that they can acknowledge the systemic nature of technology-mediated violence against women, which results in abusive cultures of violence impacting women in both sexually explicit and other sexiest ways? Does the draft PDP address such issues? Can you also throw some light on the draft PDP and the kind of things that it addresses, so that the audience here who are again joining, they might not have the idea about what is PDP also. So we have audience of that kind also who are here. So maybe just sharing your views, giving a debrief of that and what needs to be done when it comes to the gaps that are there in the law. Over to you, Apar.
Thank you so much, Vineet. I've had the benefit of learning from the comments of so many people here, and it's really been wonderful to be invited by the National Commission for Women for its 30th year founding. I'd like to also commend the actions by the National Commission for Women in recent instances of online abuse, in which they have directed police departments, asked if they are regularly following up on investigations. These are with respect to instances of targeting of minority women on social media websites, as well as the developer platform GitHub. Now, before I step to the much more specific question which is being raised with respect to the Personal Data Protection Bill, and I'll get to that in a while. I also had the benefit of listening to what the Honorable Minister for State, Mr. Rajiv Chandrasekhar, was saying in terms of increased amounts of access and participation by women in all spheres of digital engagement. And I think this is very important. I think violence is a byproduct of the exclusion, systemic exclusion and non-participation of women in online spaces, where they are not representative with respect to the number of women which are there. And here the government of India, and I would like to commend it, has for the first time formulated data through the National Family Health Survey report, which is actually showing this marked division which is present. So on an aggregate basis, as per the National Family Health Survey report, only 33% of women in India had access to the internet, as opposed to 57.1% of men. And this gap, in fact, becomes much more stark, much more evident when one looks at the distinction between the urban and rural breakups, where the gap is smaller in urban constituencies and it's much broader in rural environments. So essentially, my first recommendation would be for the National Commission of Women to look at and examine whether within its scope, it can look at regular data monitoring, collection, analysis input, as well as support of the National Family Health Survey report, but also by itself in terms of what are the data side trends of how many women are actually coming online, which policies are needed, measure it properly, and ensure that participation of men and women steps equally in terms of all types of internet access as is being planned and is being rolled out as per government policy. And I think data will be very important here. The second thing, now coming to much more specifically, has been the focus on a lot of policy proposals which have come in recently, which aim towards tackling the larger issue of safety, online safety, and looking at it from the perspective of making these environments much more closed, much more restrictive by itself. So there is a trade-off we are making, which we also need to recognize. And this trade-off is essentially between certain rights which exist with respect to free expression and privacy. It is nobody's case these rights are absolute, they are unlimited. However, at the same time, we need to carefully consider when certain recommendations come out of parliamentary panels such as the Home Affairs panel or an ad hoc committee report comes out on the effects of pornography on young children, that how those mechanisms are being how those policy proposals are being crafted, especially with respect to, let's say, its application on emerging technologies, which are used now, not emerging, in fact, widespread use of encryption-based technologies in end-to-end messaging, right? We need to consider if those recommendations will end up undermining it. Whether anonymity also services women's rights by itself or only threatens them by under the mask and cloak of anonymity, people leveling abuse. And these are practical instances where both encryption as well as anonymity have actually benefited women. First, in situations where they do not have power, for instance, for having a high degree of security in transmission of their messages and conversations through end-to-end encryption, or through anonymity, where certain environments which are not safe for them will then be utilized by them essentially to draw instances which may be of sexual harassment, as has been done. Okay, so now when we step towards understanding the wider conception of how our digital interactions are happening, a lot of it happens on the basis of data exchanges, and a lot of the services that we use are done on the basis of how platforms allow us to use those services in exchange for our personal data. Personal data is any point of data which can identify an individual according to certain characteristics. It may be their age, it may be their name, it may be their location, etc., etc. So even constituents, which may classify as public, not really private, are still personal data because this identifies an individual. It's a marker. Apar is aged so many years, this is his gender, this is where he lives, and on the basis of those basic blocks of personal information, you can build a deeper characteristic insight into my activities, my traits, my behaviors, my personality, which may be then in another bucket. So personal data, and then there's sensitive personal data. Sensitive personal data may be something more. My medical history, my sexual preferences, my membership to organizations, my political preferences and beliefs, right? So when you have basic identifiers and you layer it on top of sensitive personal information, it gives a deeper insight into a person. Now, a lot of the platforms that we use, even when we do for payments, even when it is for free, gather our personal and sensitive personal information. However, India at present does not have a data protection law as is existing in several other countries where a person like me, Apar, or any other person watching the webcast would have the opportunity of enforcing certain bundle of rights which are called user rights. These are essentially your right to firstly consent into the data collection, in which it's intelligibly told to you that we are collecting this type of data. This is your personal data. This is your sensitive personal data. This is the use it will be put to, and this is how long we will retain it. And in case you don't want to consent to it, you will also have the option of either not using the services or using the services in a limited manner. You can also ask for deletion. You can ask for correction. You can ask for portability. And all of these rights, these bundle of rights, come through a data protection statute. Now, why does this become important for women? This becomes important for women because quite often surveillance is being posed as a policy proposal towards safety. And this is so. Let me leave aside the argument which IFF quite often makes, or I often make in my work, for instance, in the context of CCTVs and facial recognition, that it increases surveillance over women. It increases the control people have over women. And just look at what does the data protection law do here? Not the principle of the thing, whether CCTVs or facial recognition should be deployed, but how does data protection change if these kind of rollouts do happen? Now, according to me, what happens is that when a CCTV program for women's safety, as has been rolled out in New Delhi, is applied and it shares the feed access with resident welfare associations, market associations, and local police officials, right? A data protection law ensures that there are security audits. The storage is done for a limited purpose, and the people who have access to that storage are authorized, and it is not leaked beyond them, right? So there's a greater degree of control of how that data is gathered, and this is the practical outcome of how benefits from a data protection law may actually flow towards women. Thank you so much, Vineet. I'll end my initial remarks.
Thank you, Apar. Thanks for giving us a quick download on the data protection law, which is in the draft, which is in the bill state as of now. So we expect this to become a law soon. So my second question to you is, Apar, do you think as a nation we need an updated cybersecurity policy? And also the strategy is also missed. As of now, we don't have a cybersecurity strategy as well. So do you think this is the need of the hour, and as a nation, we should immediately come up with a strategy and also an updated version of the cybersecurity policy? What are your thoughts on this?
Vineet, a lot of commentators, at least the panelists, not the attendees, are well aware that India's cybersecurity policy is a process in development. It has been something, a document which has been under development for some period of time, and all of us do await when it does come and is published. I think so. Most countries do update their cybersecurity policies as an annual feature, if not an annual feature, every 2 to 3 years, right? And they set out their vision, how they will approach it. So I do think that's needed. But much more particularly, I think the intersection of cybersecurity with women's safety particularly applies in the context of the questions which are posed to Mr. Gurcharan Singh with respect to law enforcement's access to user information, quite often which is needed for the prosecution of certain crimes or for the prevention of certain crimes which do happen, right? And quite often the practical experience has been, and the complaint has been, that law enforcement does not have a prompt response from companies which are not centered in India because of the MLAT process. Now, the mutual legal assistance treaties, which are the basis of this process, and there's a full compendium which has been published by the Ministry of Home Affairs, does explain it is a cumbersome process for the investigating agencies. And I think with respect to this, some research has already been attempted by researchers. One such paper is being published by, I think, Smriti Pashira at Carnegie Endowment, where she analyzes why a lot of these companies, some of which are based in the United States, and the MLAT process is essentially an antiquated process, which has then been succeeded by the US Cloud Act. But India can't become a participant to the US Cloud Act, not only due to the discretion enjoyed by the United States in which countries become a member of the US Cloud Act, but also because we don't have a data protection law. We have not attempted surveillance reforms, or we have never had surveillance reforms. So the core issue is that you cannot demand data from a company based in a foreign country if your own protections in India are not adequate and matching to the same legal standards which are there in that country. So one way which has also been recommended in terms of being much more proactive has been that if the government of India can draft a model bilateral treaty for data access. And this can be attempted, right? But at the same point in time, it will not happen as a practical reality if we do not have a data protection law and we do not also attempt surveillance reforms. But there are paths ahead, I would say, and quite clearly to me, it seems that a lot of work needs to be done here, and I hope that it comes through in time.
Thanks, Apar, for sharing your views. I also agree with you that a lot needs to be done. In fact, Australia has kind of announced their Online Safety Act. I hope that we also soon come up with our own act, the Data Protection Act. So moving on to our final panelist, Dr. Pawan Dugal. Pawanji, welcome again to the panel. And my question to you is, how can the existing set of laws be strengthened to address the issue that women face in the cyberspace, especially the tech-based abuse? And there's one more, but I'll let you address this one first, please. You're on mute, Dr. Pawan. Yeah.
Thank you for giving me that opportunity. Congratulations to the National Commission for this wonderful Foundation Day. Today, whenever we are looking at the holistic ecosystem, we have to be mindful of the historical timing of our existence. We are coming out of COVID-19, as the Honorable Minister said. But then this coming of the end of COVID-19 is also bringing up large number of new processes that have been given a new catalytic role. In my book, New Cyber World Order Post-COVID-19, I've argued that by the time nations are victorious against the current and subsequent wave of COVID-19 infections, we are entering a new cyber age, where a new cyber world order is going to await us. And increasing cyber security breaches and cyber crimes will be a daily companion of ours. It will be the new default option. And this particular trend is going to be applicable to all stakeholders, whether men or women. But in this new cyber world order, women are going to be extensively more targeted as compared to men per se. And that's why the need for protecting women becomes a paramount legislative priority for any nation. Because any nation, any society is built upon the building blocks that women are actually providing. But when I look at the existing legal frameworks in India, I find that while some work has been done, there's a lot of work that's required to be done. When I look at women-centric provisions, I find some provisions are there, but large number of other provisions can potentially be brought onto the law book. I look at the Indian Information Technology Act 2000, and I want to look at women-specific provisions. Barring a few of them, I don't find women-centric provisions. Most of the women-centric provisions are invariably concentrated on Section 66E or Section 67, 67A or 67B of the Information Technology Act 2000. But the fundamental scenario is that a large number of cyber crimes that women are currently facing in India are currently unaddressed in the eyes of law. Why? Let me take the example of trolling. Cyber trolling is an issue that's not directly covered either under the IT Act or under the Indian Penal Code. Yes, there are a number of indirect ways of how we can do about it, but then indirect provisions always take more longer time and are not very efficacious. Therefore, when I look at the emerging trends of cyber harassment, cyber bullying, cyber trolling, cyber nuisance, and cyber defamation, these 5 elements are some of the key ammunition targets which are used for purposes of targeting women. But unfortunately, we find that the existing legal frameworks, either under the IT Act or the rules and regulations made thereunder, or even under the Indian Penal Code, are not that effective as they ought to be. So if I'm a woman and I've become a victim of either a cyberbullying, cyber trolling, cyber harassment, cyber nuisance, then where do I go to? Do I need to knock the door at cybercrime.gov.in and just get a small acknowledgement that there is my complaint and wait for months before action is taken? Or do I need to come up with more effective mechanisms? So first and foremost, the legal frameworks have to be strengthened. We also need to be mindful of the fact that India today is seeing a great kind of a paucity of legal frameworks that it ought to have had by now. India today does not have any dedicated law on data protection. We do not also have a law on privacy. We also don't have a dedicated law on cybersecurity. And the absence of this trinity of laws actually provides a very fertile ground for cyber criminals and cyber breachers to go ahead and target women at large. So I think there is a need for the government to start focusing on strengthening existing legal frameworks, which will include not just amending the Information Technology Act 2000, but also making changes under the IT Rules 2021. We also need specific women-centric provisions in the forthcoming data protection law. We have not yet still as a nation begun to start thinking of having a dedicated law on privacy, and much that Justice Puttaswamy versus Union of India has given us a fundamental right to privacy under the right to life under Chapter Roman 3 of the Indian Constitution. That effectively is more and more observed and breached rather than in observance.
Looks like Dr. Pawan has some technical glitch. I will just wait for a few seconds for him to come back. While he's coming back, in fact, I'd just like to add, in fact,
of women per se. I think though some remedies have been given to women under Rule 3 of the IT Rules 2021, I think that remedies are not very adequate. First and foremost, those remedies are not effectively being enforced, but more significantly, a variety of other cyber harassment elements that women are facing in cyberspace are issues that have not been addressed. So I hope everything is going to be dependent on the political will of the government, that it comes up with appropriate enabling legal frameworks that provide a foundation for ensuring the security, the safety, and the respect of women and womanhood at large. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Pawan, and thanks for your address. You rightly brought it out about the missing Data Protection Act, which is very much required. In fact, the IT Act also needs an amendment or maybe the new version, because the times have changed. I mean, IT Act 2000 amended in 2008, and 2022, things have changed. Though there is some discussion, which I keep hearing, that we'll soon see the updated IT Act. I hope that comes as soon as possible and protects basically the rights and also safeguards women in the cyberspace. Other than that, in fact, I'd just like to request you to kind of share some of the brief pointers. You mentioned about the Rule 3 in the IT Rules 2021. But can you also share about the responsibility of the intermediaries and also the several other aspects that IT Rules 2021 highlights? Brief on IT Rules 2021 is what I'd request you to give.
Thank you. The IT Rules 2021 represent a new watershed in the evolution of cyber legal jurisprudence, because for the first time, the law is actually asking service providers to be far more accountable, to be far more responsible in terms of their conduct. Actually speaking, the 2021 rules effectively have broken the glass ceiling. The long period of honeymoon that service providers were enjoying under the Indian cyber law from 2008 till 2021 has now come to an end thanks to these rules. Well, the earlier period of the honeymoon was that the Supreme Court judgment in Singh versus Union of India had said, look, service providers, you are going to be inundated with requests to remove any kind of data. So please don't act as judges, remain put as where you are, wait for a court order or an order from a governmental agency, and once you get any such order, please act, otherwise don't act at all. The IT rules, though they have built on the same foundation of Singh versus Union of India, have actually gone a bit ahead. They have for the first time now come up with crystal clear obligations of users that will be using these kind of platforms. Under Rule 3, first and foremost, all these intermediaries are mandated to have in place appropriate terms and conditions, rules and regulations, privacy policies, and user agreements that inform their users not to share, upload, host, post, publish, or transmit any information that's either defamatory, derogatory, obscene, pornographic, lascivious, or is otherwise violative of another person's privacy or rights per se. Now, further, intermediaries have been given a lot of new added sets of responsibilities under these rules, which is to say that they have to now mandatorily comply with reasonable security practices and procedures, which is an ISO 27001, in the event they are dealing, handling, or processing sensitive personal data of users. They have been mandated to go ahead and ensure that they report any cybersecurity breach of any data that happens on their network. But more significantly, for the first time, these IT rules 2021 have gone ahead and mandated these service providers to have in place a detailed grievance redressal mechanism. They are mandated to have in place a grievance redressal officer, a compliance officer, and a nodal officer who has to go ahead and interact with the government. Further, there has been a process of a mechanism of disposal of grievances that has been stipulated under the rules. Now, in that also, the rules have categorically said that there are going to be two kinds of the disputes or grievances. The first will be the disputes or grievances that will particularly relate to either content that is violative of a person's privacy, or that shows the private parts of a particular person, or that depicts partial or full nudity, or that impersonates another person, or even creates artificially morphed pictures of individuals. And those are the broad elements which are covered. If you have any grievance pertaining to these kinds of issues, then you must immediately file a complaint with the grievance officer of the concerned service provider, and he or she is mandated to take immediate steps within 24 hours to remove or disable access. For all other kinds of complaints or grievances that you will have, you can actually also file a complaint with the grievance officer, but then the grievance officer has got 15 days thereafter to see what kind of actions can be taken so as to address your particular grievances. Now, most of the grievances, as far as women are concerned, are relating with content which is pornographic, which is showing some part of nudity or partial nudity, or which is otherwise impersonating them. Now, to that extent, they have been now empowered to ensure this kind of following the process. But the reality is that the constitutional validity of these rules, specifically in the context of protection of women, have been upheld by the Delhi High Court in the landmark judgment of X versus Union of India, where I was the amicus curiae appointed by the Delhi High Court. In this particular landmark judgment, the High Court elaborated various steps that have to be taken by both people who are victims of women who are victims of these cyber abuses, and also by the relevant stakeholders, including intermediaries, for the removal of this kind of a content. While some portion of these have now been challenged before the division bench of the Delhi High Court, and we'll await that particular judgment, there's still one complete ground reality, that there is no stay on the operation of Rule 3 of the IT Rules 2021, which effectively means that the grievance redressal mechanism has to be completely up and about and running. The ground reality is that while we would expect this grievance mechanism to come up with a magical wand, in reality, it does not really measure up to the expectations of the people. Most of the time, people find that the grievance officers of platforms are not at all responsive. They're not responding within the 24-hour deadlines of removal of this kind of a content. And we are still seeing that there is lack of effective enforcement of the grievance redressal processes, procedures, and mechanisms. And it's here, I think, that the IT rules have actually given a game-changing catalyst which has the power of changing the color of the landscape. This is Rule 7 of the IT Rules 2021, which categorically says a new precedent that we had not said anything earlier, which says that if you are a service provider or an intermediary and you do not comply with the provisions of the IT Rules 2021, then be prepared, because two consequences of law immediately follow. Number one, the Suraksha Kavach, or the statutory exemption from legal liability that you have under Section 79 of the Information Technology Act 2000 automatically is snatched away from you by operation of law. But more significantly, you also become liable for being punished for various offences under the Information Technology Act 2000 and the Indian Penal Code. So for the first time, the criminal liability of service providers and their top managements has now been legally provided for. Barring one particular case of Twitter, who lost its statutory exemption from legal liability, and 4 different FIRs were filed in 4 different states for them not complying, we have not seen much kind of enforcement of Rule 7 of the IT Rules 2021. So with the result, the problem is that while there's a great intent and while there's a great motivation for the IT Rules 2021, we are still seeing that over the last 6 months, it's more and more working in the direction of becoming a paper tiger, which effectively is not good news either from the perspective of a protection of women per se, nor in the good news on the march towards a safe, secure, and reliant cyberspace. Now, of course, some service providers have taken proactive steps to comply with these IT rules, but most of the time, the grievance redressal mechanism processes are something that requires a lot more to be done by service providers. So I hope there's going to be more enforcement of the IT rules, but more than the danda of the law, it should be the proactive, responsible action of these service providers that will have to effectively inform the decision making and the ecosystem at large. And finally, I think there needs to be massive capacity building. Various panelists have already highlighted the need for capacity building. We've created an online platform called cyberlawuniversity.com, where we offer various online courses on the intersection of cyber law, cybercrime, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and blockchain. And I think when these courses are done by more than 27,000 students from 174 countries over the last 3 years, speaking 52 national languages, the figures are telling us one thing, that there is a massive need for capacity building. And here, I think the National Commission for Women, the Cyber Peace Foundation, and organizations like Meta need to be congratulated for coming up those with very fantastic approaches which are ultimately aimed at empowering the women. Because at the end of the day, that has to be the starting point. Once women are empowered by appropriate sensitization, by appropriate capacity building, that could hopefully become a very important point in ensuring that the women do not remain mere silent, mute spectators, but are active voices when they become victims of these cybercrimes. But more significantly, it can also help in making India a more better, more cyber secure, and more cyber resilient nation, and also ensuring the better quality of the Indian cyberspace. So I think it's a holistic approach. Everybody has to contribute. There's no one particular sector that can contribute. Laws alone have only limited role to play. Effective enforcement of laws is yet another important role, but ultimately it's all about holding hands, creating more trust, and ultimately empowering each one of us. That's going to be the mantra for ensuring that there's a safe, secure, and healthy cyberspace for all of us to live, to work, and to interact with. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Pawan, and you had in fact summed up very well. In fact, and that's what all these speakers have been echoing about the holistic approach, and everyone has a responsibility. It's not something that government alone or platforms alone have to kind of educate people, but all of us, even individuals, need to come together to kind of spread the message of safety, safeguarding, and also empowerment in the platform. So thank you so much for your address. I'm mindful of the time. Some speakers have to leave early, so I'll not take much of the time. I think everything has been said by the speakers already, and I'd like to kind of leave it at that. And one thing that I'd like to say, let's join hands together, whether it is industry, academia, government, or the civil society. Let's join hands together to kind of make the space safer for women, so that they can be empowered, and plus any kind of issues will remain. Issues will keep on happening, but together we can address the issues as and when it comes. We can address the issues so that women, young girls, they feel safe using the platform, using the cyberspace, and we don't kind of develop that fear in tech. We generally have seen a lot of people develop that fear that technology is wrong, technology is bad. So I think technology overall is quite good. Technology is a big enabler, but yes, with good things, you have certain percentage of bad stuff, which again, together, in fact, we need to address it, and we want to make the space safer for everyone. With this, I'd like to, first of all, thank all the panelists who have been here for the entire discussion. They have been there throughout the discussion. A lot of valuable views, a lot of takeaways for me. I have almost 4 pages of notes for me to compile the set of recommendations, and also I'm sure we'll take all these recommendations forward. In fact, NCW itself, the reason why this talk is being hosted and getting all people, different players together is to understand what needs to be done. So I'm sure as National Commission for Women, a lot of things will be taken ahead. We have already been implementing the Digital Shakti, the We Think Digital initiative. So a lot of learnings for that initiative as well. And as we move on to say version 4, you'll see a lot of things coming in. So with this, I'd like to end and thank you once again, panelists. And I'd like to hand over the stage now to Lily. Lily, over to you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I would like to extend the gratitude to National Commission for Women to everyone, all the panelists and attendants who joined us today for this informative and thought-provoking panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So tight.